this chit chat. Grab your popcorn, sit tight, we're ready to roll. In the heart of Sacktown, we're feeding your soul. In the King's Court, the vibe's electric. If you don't like that, we're here to correct it. With the best in the game, we're raising the bar. From the hardwood to the airways, we're the King's shining star. With the NFL, Adams in the ring. Rhino's got the wisdom, hear the praises we sing. Court in session, it's a royal affair. With the fans all around, feel the passion in the air. In the King's Court, the vibe's electric. If you don't like that, we're here to correct it. With the best in the game, we're raising the bar. From the hardwood to the airways, we're the King's shining star.
The cream of the crop. Nobody does it better.
Playoffs return tonight. It is nice to have some puck back tomorrow. You get the NBA Finals. They had media day today. We can talk about it. We're going to talk about the Kings, of course. Welcome in. Court in session. Ryan in Sacktown coming at you. First of two shows on the channel today. Grant back tonight, 8 o'clock. You all know that. You've been joining him. Some good discussions going on over there. And we are doing, tomorrow night, we're going to do a post-game show for the NBA Finals. Grant and I have not teamed up in a couple of weeks. So that is going to be a fun time. Come over. We'll break down game one. We'll talk about maybe a little puck. We'll get into a little puck. Now, I'm not a big hockey guy, but I am when the playoffs roll around. I don't know much about hockey, but I'm trying to learn. So I looked up some odd facts about hockey that we'll run throughout this show today. But how are all you? Get up here in the chat. Would love to see you guys participate. Great show with Jerry Reynolds yesterday. Awesome show. Good 45-minute conversation with him. You can catch that on the replay. But we're looking forward to today. If you want to call, you can do that as well. You can scan the QR code on the screen. You can also hit the link that's in the chat. The title of the show, if the Kings, and I'm paraphrasing here, if the Kings want to do a proper rebuild, you got to trade Sabonis, right? You can't rebuild with Sabonis on the roster. That's my proposition. Tell me how you feel about that. Am I right? Am I wrong? We'll get into it. Obviously, some more rumors leaking out. It doesn't look like Domas is going to be traded, but I will say this. This time of year in this NBA, with what we've seen transpire since the new CBA has been put into effect, everybody can be traded at this point. When you saw Luka get traded, heck, that sent a shockwave not just through the NBA, but through the players in the NBA. So anyways, Tristan, man, you got a lot of run yesterday from Jerry. I don't know how you have wiggled your way in, but you are kind of becoming a Jerry Reynolds favorite. So good job by you, my man. Which way are you going on the NBA Finals? We'll talk some more about that. We'll hear from Tyrese a little bit. I'm not going to shove him down your throat. We'll hear from SGA. I've also got some audio from a podcast that popped up, caught my attention, talking about the Kings and the offseason as well, or the Kings and what their offseason is going to look like, what they need to do. I already told you, finals kick off tomorrow night. The long wait, it's too long. The NBA builds up. Like, seriously, do you need 4 days to build these finals up when you've had games every single night? It just slows things down. Give the guys 2 days, play on the third day. We will hear, though, this is interesting. We will hear from Commissioner Ears tomorrow before game one. Looking forward to seeing how he puts this finals into context. And of course, he gets a bunch of odd questions as well. And not regularly do his feet get held to the fire, but I really would like to hear some more about officiating, because he doesn't see any problem with the NBA. He's on the record saying that he's fine with the physicality. He turned the dial up, but what's the fix gonna be? Jerry and I have kicked it around. I think the fix is you take away replay. I don't think you can have replay like the NFL has replay in basketball. They're two completely different games. The speed of the games is different. How there's a stoppage in play is completely different. I think it is the eye in the sky. You have Secaucus last 2 minutes of a game, and I will concede. Excuse me. I will concede to you that the last 2 minutes really shouldn't be more important than any other 2 minutes in the game, but it is what it is. It's the last 2 minutes. So make that an eye in the sky thing where the refs get buzzed and they don't get buzzed to go to the monitor. They get buzzed and told, wrong call, this is happening. And you keep the game moving. So I'm looking forward to see if he gets some of those questions. That will definitely make my day. Told you hockey resumes tonight. I know Sea-Dog has a lot of interest in this one. It's a big Edmonton fan. Connor McDavid and Edmonton taking on the Florida Panthers. Second year in a row, these two teams have met in the Stanley Cup. And get it right, you don't want to piss hockey fan off. The Stanley Cup final. Not the finals. The finals.
They score! Can you believe it? My goodness!
Did you know that early in the hockey days, like when hockey was just getting started, that early hockey puck material, any guess what the puck was made out of in the early days? Going once, going twice. It was sometimes made of frozen cow dung. What? I can deal with that if that puck's not hitting my face at least 5 times a season. How many teeth are these guys missing so many times? And that's what you think of with hockey. It's these tough guys. You're a different breed. You're a different brand. It just means a little bit more. The history, having your name on the cup, the brotherhood in that locker room, it's just a little bit different. And yes, you have free agency, you have trades, etc. But I just watched one of the teams walk into the building. They're all dressed in black suits, white shirts, black ties, front to back. Hockey players are just wired different. It's going to be a banger of a final. So I will be tuned in tonight for that as well. The Phoenix Suns, check this out, have hired their next coach. Cavaliers assistant Jordan Ott is going to be the new coach of the Phoenix Suns. Like we talked about yesterday, dude's got job security because Phoenix is going to be a rebuild. Kevin Durant was not reportedly talked to. He was not advised with this move, but you know who was? Devin Booker. And you know why that was the right move by Matt Ishbia? Because you've got a guy that's in his prime. Here's a little bit more on that. But you have a guy that's in his prime in Devin Booker. Devin Booker is now going to be playing for his 8th head coach. Let me repeat that. 8 head coaches. And I believe his 10 or 11-year career. 11 years, I believe, off the top of my head. You better advise with that guy. You better include him in those conversations if you want him to stay, if you want him to be part of it. Not saying that Jordan Ott's going to have 5 years to turn it around, but I think something like Mark Diagno in Oklahoma City is reasonable. Jordy in Brooklyn, he's made it through one, probably make it through a couple more. Don't see that being an issue. So Devin's going to give up a good part of his prime to be there. And don't get me wrong, it's not bad being in Phoenix year round, especially if you like to golf. But they got it done. You can say what you want about their process in Phoenix. You can talk about the fact that they have been tremendously underwhelming when it comes to their play and being able to stay healthy. You can make fun of them for having the worst contract in basketball. That's coming from somebody that covers the Kings with the Zach LaVine contract. Bradley Beal, holy bleep, with a no trade. Come on, you can't do that. You take that. Anyways, I'm not going to get into Phoenix, but that's why Phoenix is in the hole that they are in. So their search has wrapped up. Jordan Ott has Devin Booker's blessing, which is a very good thing for Phoenix. Expect Phoenix to be really the next, again, couple years, not very good. And that's not saying much because Kings don't have a high bar either. Reports that the Kings might be interested in Tyus Jones. Cool. Why not last year? Why not the year before? You could have had the guy. Do the Kings want to reunite him with Valanciunas now? Because they played together in Washington. Not an expensive contract, but I don't mind the move. You know what I really love about Tyus Jones? Here's what I love about Tyus Jones. 81 games played last year, 66 the year before, 80 in 22-23, 73, 70, 65, 68, 82. Should I keep going? The guy stays healthy. The guy plays. So if you can get him for a reasonable number, Domas.
The biggest thing is we need a point guard. That's for sure.
We know the Kings need a point guard. Back to Phoenix, though. Kevin Durant, where's he going to be? He's not going to be in Phoenix again. That experiment has not worked. And Shams had some reporting earlier today on the teams that might be interested.
League sources tell me the Phoenix Suns are hiring Cleveland Cavaliers assistant Jordan Ott as the franchise's next head coach. That will be their fourth coach in the last 4 seasons, and he beats out fellow Cavs assistant Johnny Bryant for this first head coaching job for him after being an assistant since 2012. And Suns leadership agreed on Ott after interviewing over 15 candidates for the job. And obviously Ott,
it's not the Kevin Durant audio. Come on, producer.
And Johnny Bryant worked under Coach of the Year, Kenny Atkinson, this past season. The most interesting part, though, is really over the last 7 to 10 days. Devin Booker, the Suns franchise cornerstone, was involved late in this process for the hire. And I'm told Jordan Ott was his top choice as well. We know Devin Booker has had a ton of coaches over his 11 seasons in the NBA. 8 coaches to be exact, he's on now. And that partnership will be critical to the Suns' future between Devin Booker and Jordan Ott.
Interesting. So, Shams, as interesting to me as it is.
So there you go. And now we get to the audio about Kevin Durant.
That Devin Booker was involved in choosing the next coach for the Phoenix Suns. It's equally as fascinating, the name that you didn't mention, Kevin Durant. What does this signal for his future?
Malika, conversations will now begin to pick up on a potential trade of Kevin Durant out of Phoenix. Over the next 2 to 3 weeks, conversations will begin to heat up. I'm told the Suns will work with Durant and his business partner, Rich Kleiman, on a trade home. There's expected to be a robust market for him. 4 to 6 teams seriously interested in Durant, potentially ahead of the NBA draft. But between now and that NBA draft later this month in June, there's going to be serious conversations about moving Kevin Durant, and still one of the great players in the NBA right now, an all-NBA caliber player, still at the prime stages really of his play in terms of as a scorer. So we'll see where Kevin Durant ends up this offseason.
I mean, prime stage of your career if it's the Olympics. I'm sorry, it doesn't feel like Kevin Durant's done a ton as of late. Now, I have not been watching a ton of Phoenix basketball, but I know he's missed a tremendous amount of time. The market's still going to be there for him, but is Durant that player now that takes you over the top? I'm almost don't want to say or put guys in categories, but is he starting to kind of, maybe if this was next offseason, starting to slide into that Paul George territory with his impact on a team? Or maybe Phoenix was just a bad fit. It didn't work. Bad luck. But he has had his own fair share of injuries. There's no doubt about that. So it is going to be a nutty offseason. Domantas Sabonis, we're going to talk heavily about him today. That's going to be our topic. We'll mix in some other stuff. What are the Kings going to do? The Kings are likely holding on to Domas. But if you did have one route left and you executed it the right way, that's the only route. Trading Domas is the only route to doing a full quote unquote rebuild here in Sacramento. And when I mean quote unquote rebuild, you're not, Jerry said it yesterday. You've got to get something back short term in terms of a player that is in the neighborhood, or maybe a couple of players that match the salary, but they could be expiring contracts. And you know that you're not bringing them back. You're really looking at the draft equity on the back end, which means, and I think, and I'll pose the question to all you, the Kings, we've talked about basketball purgatory, where you're not terrible, but you're not good enough to be in the top 6. And now you're kind of in that play-in mix, bottom of the lottery, maybe fall out of the lottery. That's kind of the worst place this team can be, because the only way this team's going to get better is through the draft. I mean, Cade Cunningham ain't walking through that door. Drew Holiday, as much as I think it would be a decent move, ain't walking through the door. Decent move if you have Sabonis. And that's the other thing. If you trade Domantas Sabonis away, the way this team plays is drastically different, and the way that players are utilized on this roster becomes drastically different. I do believe in my heart of hearts, and we'll talk more about this as the show goes along, you cannot trade Domantas Sabonis before you trade DeMar DeRozan. DeMar DeRozan would have to be the first piece there. If I'm the Kings, I'm listening. I am not actively shopping Domas. Domas wants to be, by all accounts, in Sacktown. If he gets some clarity, he likes living here. He likes living in Napa in the off season. He loves the fan base. He's used to small markets. He's been around them most of his career and his life with his dad. So all that's fine and good. But at the end of the day, with him, you're listening. You have to listen. There's nobody outside of, I think there's one untouchable name on this payroll right now, on this roster. And many of you would not agree with me on that. So we will continue that talk in a minute. Let's get to the chat, though, see what's going on, check in with all of you today. Like I said, if you want to call the show, feel free to. I will put the link back in the chat. You got Grant coming up at 8 o'clock tonight as well. Abraham chiming in and kicking us off. Trade Domas, unfortunately, in my opinion, great guy and all, but he goes missing in games when we need him. And defense sucks. I'd rather have Naz Reid. I would love to have Naz Reid. It's a very good fit. In fact, Naz Reid and Domas together would be a nice fit. You can't afford both of them together. And I don't know what the T-Wolves, I believe, it's either the team or Naz has an option this year on his contract off the top of my head. I'll look that up. But I would also argue that, and I think we forget this, Domantas Sabonis has been kind of playing out of position to a degree. And if you're going to argue he's not a 4, he's a 5, then the Kings have failed him in terms of putting the people around him, that length defender, that 6'9", 6'8" guy with a 7'1" span. Doesn't have to be explosive offensively, but can guard on the perimeter, can protect the rim athletically, like Pascal Siakam, who's going to be coming up. And I know his name was around. He didn't want to come to Sacramento, etc. But it goes both ways. It goes both ways with Domas. I mean, he hasn't had a point guard. Everything has fallen on him. He has worn he's worn more hats than a lids factory produces in a day here in Sacramento. He just has. With Jordan Ott hiring at Phoenix, Johnny Bryant's name has moved up as Knicks coaching candidate. All right, Patrick. breaking some news. I have no familiarity with him. Neither did I. Okay, fair enough. So this is what I find really, really funny. I was looking around, doing my daily due diligence at the places that I do them. And I was doing it on Thibodeau. And I'm like, okay, it's a decent thought. I see that. People I respect. And then all of a sudden, on one of these platforms, somebody that all of us know very well is on talking about Tom Thibodeau. And I just found it really ironic.
My opinion, I do think it was a bit of an overreaction. I think they overachieved in the playoffs, which was great for them. I think everybody played a part in that. As far as Tibbs getting fired, I think they could have went to next season with Tibbs, made some adjustments to their roster, improved the team. But also, everybody's been on record of not being a fan of the way Tibbs, being a fan of Tibbs' coaching style. He kind of runs players into the ground. He overplays them. It's a very, very short lineup, regular season and throughout the postseason run. So, all of these things I also feel played a factor into them, coming up short.
Anybody know who that is? Anybody know who that is off the top of your head? Super ironic that he talks about running players into the ground. He ran a ton of coaches and players into the ground. He's ran way more players into the ground than Tom Thibodeau has. Boogie freaking Cousins? Wasn't he just like playing basketball in Laos somewhere? I don't know. Somewhere in the world? Now he's a Tom Thibodeau expert? Everybody, listen to the back end of this. Everybody feels
Improved the team.
that Tibbs.
But also, everybody's been on record of not being a fan of the way Tibbs, being a fan of Tibbs' coaching style.
I'm not on record. Are you on record, Al? Osdy guy, are you on record? Derek, are you on record? Thanks for speaking for me. DeMarcus, everybody is on record.
But also, everybody's been on record of not being a fan of the way Tibbs, being a fan of Tibbs' coaching style. He kind of runs players into the ground. He overplays them. It's a very, very short lineup, regular season and throughout the postseason run. So,
isn't that the definition of the pot calling the kettle black? Any other analogies out there that you can throw at me? Throwing rocks in a glass house. Anybody else want to chime in? Boogie Cousins. Who gives Boogie Cousins a platform to talk about Tom Thibodeau? I'm sorry. Did he ever play for Tom Thibodeau? I actually don't know that off the top of my head because he had so many stops at the end of his career. Like, come on. But I probably will not go back to that place. You're going to put that guy in to talk about that coach when he personally bullied and ran teammates into the ground, ran coaches into the ground? Come on, Boogie. Bad job. Bad job. Like, Boogie just doesn't go away. Boogie is that freaking booger that just never feels like it comes out of your nose. That's what it is. Unbelievable. Billy Preston, nothing from nothing. It leads to nothing. Got trade value to get value. Yes, you do. That is true. Well, there's a couple of teams with DeMar DeRozan that value him. Boston, I think, really values him. I also think Miami. You've seen those two teams pop up in some reports. I think both of those are very good situations. Now, the question is with DeMar, does he want to go all the way across the country at this point? It's well known he likes to be on the West Coast as much as he can because he family in Los Angeles. BJ, Listening. What's up, dude? Hope you're having a good day at work. Let's see as we roll through this. Oh, we have our latest installment as well from Vivek today. So I don't know what he's going to tell us about. I am hopeful. I'm crossing my fingers that he's going to talk about the Kings today on Instagram. We will see as the show goes along. Good stuff. I'm going to hop back to the bottom of the comments, see which way you guys are all gals and guys are going with the boogie stuff, the boogeyman pissing into the wind. Yeah. That works. People who live in the mud huts shouldn't pee on the walls. Sometimes when you roll around with the dogs, you get fleas. Anybody else want to chime in on those? Unbelievable. Play what again? You want to hear Boogie again? No problem being late, Flores. All good, man. Crazy. Like, come on, Boog. Come on, Boog. All right, latest installment of Vivek Ranadive talking to us about his life, his story. This has got to be the one where he talks about the Kings, right? We've heard like 4 or 5 of these because of the King. That's a major part of your life, right? So here we go. Fingers crossed. Drum roll, please. Vivek, kicking it to you.
A short walk from the New York Stock Exchange, we have 85 Broad Street, which was headquarters for Goldman Sachs back in the day, and they were the most powerful investment bank in the world. And on the 29th floor was the trading floor where I got my first contract. I was a 20-something, and I walked into the office of Bob Rubin, who had just been made CEO, and he became my very first client. He gave me my first contract to automate his block trading flow.
Damn. I was hoping that was going to be the one. Does that mean we have to listen to another installment of these each day? Peter says trade Sabonis to Portland for Ayton's expiring contract and Shaden Sharp. Yeah. I don't think Portland would. Well, would they? I don't know. We can play around with it. I guess there's no rush to get Sabonis out the door. I'm not trying to push him out the door. And all reports are indicating that the Kings are not shopping him. But shopping and listening are very different things. And as I said at the top, in this NBA, you always have to be listening. How do you think the Cat deal and Julius Randle deal came about? I don't think those two teams were talking all summer. I think one team, once they got Brunson's deal done, said, all right, let's take a run at it. And guess what? The Timberwolves listened. Patrick Randall's deal is up, I believe. Right? Isn't it? People around the league expect the Kings to consider trading at least one member of their big three. Doesn't surprise me. You have to. You have to. You can't run. Well, I guess you can run it back. Here's what you're going to, this will be the rhetoric. If you run it back, well, Doug Christie has a full season. You've got a new GM. Devin Carter's had a full summer. That's what you're going to get if the Kings run it back, which maybe it's not a bad thing. I just go back to the start of the show and I go back to the Fox trade. And the Fox trade was kind of, for me, a fork in the road. If you've been with this show for a minute, I said trading De'Aaron Fox is going to put you in one of two directions. You're either going to recalibrate or you're going to reset. Somehow the Kings are on the median in between that fork in the road because of what they got in return for De'Aaron Fox. So Zach LaVine, if you go look, it's actually kind of freaky. His shooting numbers in Chicago are exactly the same. Like the percentages are exactly the same for what they were here in Sacramento during that short time. So you give him a little bit more time, you give Doug some more time. But again, I think one of the things that most people are not talking about, if you do run this back, you need to at least bring some residual pieces. It's not going to be anything big. It's not going to be anything flashy, but you've got to bring in a few pieces that push guys more towards their natural positions. Basically, what I'm saying is you need a pure 4. You need a pure 1. You need those things to be able to make the argument that you might have a better group of guys, whether the outcome that the Kings saw after the LaVine trade might have been just not enough of a sample size. You needed more time. You needed Doug to get a full training camp with those guys. But maybe if you're able to push Sabonis back into his natural position, you're able to push Keegan Murray to his natural position, you're able to get a true point guard in. That makes a world of a difference. And then Zach LaVine is a natural shooting guard. Right? And I haven't even said DeMar DeRozan's name. Malik Monk, to me, 100% should be coming off the bench, assuming you get a true point guard some point in this offseason. So one of the podcasts that caught my ear, they were talking about the Kings, was the Game Theory podcast. So right now they're talking about the different fits in the different avenues that the Kings might have, teams that might be interested in certain players. Sabonis, LaVine, DeRozan. One of the teams that came up was Orlando for LaVine. They're in desperate need of shooting, but if they were going to pull the trigger on LaVine, it would have been last offseason. Last offseason is when they had the money to play with, so I don't think that works. Golden State, they would need to go massively into the luxury tax to get Sabonis. And what would you get in return from Golden State? Kuminga, I believe, is on a team option. I'll look up those options. Here's the podcast, Game Theory. They're kicking these things around.
It's just what the De'Aaron Fox departure has, wrought for them, right? And I don't know if I have a great spot for LaVine. Like the Magic just financially can't do this to me. We've talked about the Pistons for a while. Like if the Pistons wanted to go for this, I guess I wouldn't mind it, but I don't think you're getting crazy value for LaVine there either.
No, I mean, he makes sense there. Like, I think he definitely, depending on what you think about J.I., and we don't need to have that conversation on this one. So
is there a spot where you like Sabonis? Like a team that you think should give up real value to get Domantas Sabonis?
See, he's one where as good as I think he is, I think he can also be difficult just because of his play style and how much the offense runs through him. So,
do you know what the fun thing is? Like, he's making too much money to go to the Warriors, but I would love to see the Warriors offense.
That is a great name. That's the name. Yep.
There's just no way to do it because they're fine. Like you'd have to move like Jimmy Butler or something like that to do it. There's just not a way to do it. But it's kind of like, to me, that's the kind of offense it has to be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is there a chance that the Hornets just decide to go for this? Like if they're going to move Mark Williams, which they tried to at the deadline, is there any way that you could do contract accumulation and picks for Domantas Sabonis?
I don't know that I love that with LaMelo and Sabonis as much.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think Sabonis is fairly overrated in terms of the way he impacts wins and losses on the court. Obviously an incredible accumulator of stats and is a real offensive playmaker and problem to deal with because of his ability to pass, because of his ability to like just put his shoulder into you and just be the biggest bully on the court at times. But I just don't think the defense is anywhere near good enough to make it work consistently, especially with the current iteration of guys on the perimeter that they have right now between Levine, Monk, DeRozan, Devin Carter, and Keon Ellis are great defenders, but that trio, Malik Monk, Zach Levine, and DeMar DeRozan, like you just have no chance, I think, with Sabonis on the court.
Do any of the other right now?
I thought there was a lot of good insight there, except the take that Domantas Sabonis does not affect winning. You can't say that he's a great accumulator and then say he doesn't affect winning. The take there has to be he's not the guy you go to win a game. He's not a closer per se. Like you think of Steph Curry, like you think of Hallie, like you think of SGA, Anthony Edwards, and so on and so forth. But did you see where they got to? You just fundamentally have three pieces that are, well, two of the three are very unique. And by the way, checking in, Julius Randle, that is a player option. Jonathan Kuminga, the Warriors, it's an offer sheet. They can match what any team offers him. So it's a restricted free agent situation. But that's the hurdle the Kings have to fundamentally get around. As I bring you back in and we get some more of your comments in here, I don't think, and I said this last season, towards the end of the season, this is some high level coaching stuff, like very, very high level coaching stuff. And no disrespect to Doug Christie. What I'm saying is you bring Tom Thibodeau into the mix, you bring Pop, if he was physically able to coach right now, into the mix. Any of the great coaches you think of, I think this is one of those problems that they're looking at and they're stumped. How do I make DeMar DeRozan, Domantas Sabonis, and Zach Levine work together? Because you have, between DeMar DeRozan and Domantas Sabonis, you have conflicting styles of basketball. Straight up. And there's nothing wrong with having conflicting styles of basketball. That's why you see the Pacers at times. That's why you've seen some of the great teams come at you with waves. Now, there's something that's always consistent about their play. So pace for the Pacers is very important. That's extremely consistent. But sometimes the Pacers get more physical. Sometimes they back off a little bit. I guess the best example here in Sacramento would be the difference you see when Malik Monk would come onto the floor with Domas versus De'Aaron on the floor with Domas. Malik had the pick and roll. It got a little bit more physical. Yes, Adam Silver got a little bit more grinding. And it was a changeup from the dribble handoff. It was a changeup from the multiple option offense. You go to a two-option offense, and now you're getting other shooters spot-up looks. You're making the defense make the decision. And the problem with that is Malik's the sixth man. If DeMar DeRozan's on a Kings roster, Guy is going to be starting. So those two are going to be on the floor together. Zach Levine, I guess that's the third element in it, but I think a point guard alleviates that. So a lot of good things to think about, talk about. I see free agents list on the screen. Who is gone 100% in your opinion? Well, why don't we pull up what Sacktown has to work with? Let's go to that really quick. Thanks for joining us again here on the Kings Court. Fun show with Jerry. And we have a new drop, by the way. What's up, Wolfie? How you doing today? Here's the new drop. If somebody in the chat asks a great question, you get this dropped on you.
Ooh, that's a great question.
So if you get that compliment, you're doing something right. All right, let's get back to what we were talking about with the Kings and their financials, who's coming back, who's not. There's only actually, I didn't really need to go to this graphic because there's only a handful of guys that are worth Trey Lyles. Let's talk about guys that were in the rotation. Trey Lyles, gone. I don't see the Kings bringing him back. I think that has played its course. 3 years here, and nothing against Trey. Trey had a lot of injuries. He was fine Beam team year until there was that skirmish with Milwaukee, and he kind of tweaked his shoulder, and then his shooting went down the rest of the season. And since then, he's dealt with a ton of soft tissue, calves, things of that nature. So I don't see Trey back. So let's move to Jake LaRavia. The Kings max that they can offer him is 5.3. I believe it's either between 5.2 and 5.3. I think Jake LaRavia will be back, but I do think it's going to be on a short-term basis. So maybe a year and some type of option, maybe a team option, or maybe a team option. I'm trying to think what Jake, or he would push probably for a player option. So maybe Jake, yeah, probably the player option. Maybe get him on a 1-year contract or 2-year contract, second year with the player option. And here's why. It's because Jake is tailor fit for a Doug Christie mindset type of, it's all about effort. If you bring the effort, you bring the fight, the intensity, the output of that's going to be winning. You saw that Jake got into Doug's good graces very quickly. In fact, Memphis's GM came out and said, I wish we would have had Jake still on the roster, but you have to remember they had some guys that got injured, specifically Jalen Wells in that terrifying fall. But I guess what I'm saying is when you look at free agency, the money is not going to be there like it used to. And last year's free agency showed you that. The Clippers 3 years ago, 4 years ago, it would have been a no-brainer to just pay Paul George that extra money and bring him back. But with this new CBA, that was a big deal. They let him go. Philly swapped it up, and look at what they're dealing with now. Malik Monk, I look at him staying during the time that the Kings could negotiate with him exclusively, and I think that's 65%. He wanted to be in Sacramento. He loves Sacramento. He loves his role here in Sacramento. I do think, by the way, and as much as it gets played up that him and Foxy were, really good friends and they played at Kentucky together, I think there's a part of Malik that thought he could be the guy here in Sacktown in that position. And I think there's part of Malik that still thinks he can be that guy in Sacktown if he's playing in his natural position, which isn't point guard. So 65% he was going to stay, but that last 35%, because Malik had never been a free agent in this position where he was going to get ready for a big raise, I don't think the money was there. There might have been a team that was $1 million more than the Kings. Maybe. But the situation here was better. He's going to make $1 million off the court if he stays with Sacktown. Local advertisements. He got his own shoe. I believe it's like Apex. Is Apex the brand that Malik is with? So fit was important. But the money, again, not there. Valanciunas, his contract that he signed last year during free agency, not a lot of money. Not a lot at all. Same things with Tyus Jones. So for Jake, I come back at that number unless another team just blows them away, but I don't see another team doing that. You're not going to pay a ton of money for Jake LaRavia. You're just not in this CBA. So, point being, come back. You know Doug Christie's going to play you. You are one of 4, in my opinion, universal pieces on this Kings team. There are universal guys on this team that could play for any 30 teams in the NBA. Plug and play. Send them away. They'll play the next day. He's one of them. So, and he's on the lower end of that. The 2 top ones in order, Keegan Murray, Keon Ellis. I think you come back, you show out, and then you get paid the next year if you do it. So, and I think the possibility of him getting more playing time somewhere else, playing time that matters, I don't see it any more than what it would be here in Sacramento under Doug Christie. So I think Jake's back. As for Doug, Jay, Markelle, Orlando's already gone. IJ, well, IJ's under contract. All those guys are gone. So the Kings have a lot of work to do. A lot of work to do with not a ton of money. You got to get creative. And the 42nd pick. That's the other thing. The 42nd pick. It's not impossible. And Grant, okay, I'm gonna be a little more optimistic here. You ask this question to Grant, he's gonna give you like a 3-word answer. But it's not impossible to nab a guy at 42 that could step in and surprise you. Hell, look at Isaiah Thomas. Wasn't he the last pick in the draft? It's possible. It's just improbable. Jalen Wells, first team all-rookie this year, NBA, from Sacramento. He was a second-round pick. So maybe there's some pressure there to draft well at 42. But you've got to make up some room. You've got to make up some room. Dennis says the Brooklyn Nets have been offering Cam Johnson in the 19th pick in hopes of acquiring another lottery pick. Makes sense because you got to keep that payroll low. Develop talent. Makes sense. Miss Sabonis saying we need a point guard. It's been a while. You're right, Paul. It has.
Well, the biggest thing is we need a point guard. That's for sure.
This was the moment. This was after. This was in the. What was it? This was like game 3 or 4 of the 5-game losing streak at home that led up to Mike Brown's firing. And this is when we realized, our radars went up, that there was a little bit of trouble in paradise. Domas wasn't exactly thrilled with how he was being used.
A day away from each other, perhaps. I mean, is there a way to have tough conversations and look at something there kind of moments?
We just got to work. I mean, we've dug ourselves in a pretty bad hole right now, and everyone just got to come in and work. Watch film, come in, lift, shoot, do whatever you got to do to get everyone's confidence back.
When you popped up in the injury report earlier today, did you think you'd end up playing 31.5 minutes tonight?
I did not. We're at this point where I can't really rest. Even if it's hurting, we got to try and win games, and I feel like my team needed me.
How are you feeling after this one?
Such a good dude. Such a good dude. He let you in there on that back half. I like him a lot, but they're not going to part. Well, no, I don't see him parting with him, Peter. I just don't see it, especially with the CBA right now. Good take and good job on your homework, by the way. Well done, Peter. I want to hear that don't make sense or the Pee Wee Herman laugh for bad comments. I can make that don't make sense work, but dude, there ain't no Pee Wee Herman in my computer. I'm sorry. Like, Peter, I'm pretty sure in everything that's audio, like with the drops, it's running through a MacBook. But I'm pretty sure that would get flagged.
That don't make no sense.
If I had Pee Wee Herman sound drops, I don't need any of that business coming to my front door. Oh my goodness. We can do that. Don't make sense. We'll settle there. Flores, I love how you guys keep the conversation going amongst yourselves. Of course. Okay. Think about this. All three of those dudes, Tristan, were not in the NBA to start the season. Let me repeat that. All three were not in the NBA to start the season. That is how weak the bench was. I think McBuckets ended up better than expected. Crowder was excellent for the young guys. Fultz, we were kind of excited when Fultz came in, right? Because we're like, oh, it's a point guard. We got a point guard. He's a defense guy, too. Good body. He'll be physical in the pick and roll. Markelle Fultz hits the floor for the first time, and he shoots 3 of 4 possessions. And he made a couple. And kind of a dunk. It was kind of a dunk. It was like one of those dunks where the ball goes up and you pull the rim down. But I'm thinking, okay, his mindset is scoring. His mindset is not point guard. So you don't miss anything. Bottom line, the jock sniffer is still the owner. But hey, the owner's given us some great stuff. Haven't you enjoyed learning more about his success? I'm waiting for the Kings episode. But we've had some fun hearing about, the things he used to do around the country. See the free agents list on the screen. Yeah, we already hit that. So that's a bad job by me. That does not make any sense.
That don't make no sense.
Sabonis has an old school type of is an old school type of player and does not fit in today's basketball. I don't know. Bullshit. Flores. It's bullshit. He fits in today's basketball. Fits perfectly in today's basketball. He's just not the 1A that you use. Or excuse me, 1A. He's just not the star. And Sack has played him in a position where he has to do everything. I mean, isn't that kind of... And I guess that's almost the argument with... The Kings don't have a lot of room. They don't have a million options. They don't have a first-round draft pick. And if you trade Sabonis this offseason, you're changing everything. You're re-looking at you're deciding how this team is going to play basketball going forward. So I actually, the more I think about it, you can't trade Domantas Sabonis this offseason. You just can't. The easier fix is getting the point guard.
Well, the biggest thing is we need a point guard, that's for sure.
And seeing if that works. And even if you were looking to trade him, there is no rush. But on the other side of that, and that's why I titled the show, a rebuild does not start until he's traded. You can't rebuild properly. You don't have the players of value to get future picks. He's the one. So if at any time that Rudy Gobert 5 picks deal comes through that Dennis is predicting, you pull the trigger immediately. Hey, we're going to offer you yes. Like it's that quick. We're going to offer yes. You see the facts, you see the 5 come through. Yes. That's what you would have to do. He's not the star, but for some reason, we pay him star money. You have to, Abraham. First off, I'm not sitting here, nor would I, This guy has left his heart. He's left everything on the floor here in Sacramento. He's played through bad injuries. He's played through not this last season, but the 46-win season. He sprained his ankle twice down the stretch and kept playing. He has been so durable. And to think about, in fact, there would be no playoffs if he wouldn't have been here. Think about how many things he absorbed for the Kings. The double-double streaks, the triple-doubles, all those stats. Who would have made those stats down low if not for Sabonis? You would have had somebody rebounding. I don't need a golden. Yeah, no. I think we had that episode already. You missed that episode. We got that story. You would have had somebody eating up some of that stuff, but not to the degree and frequency that Domas was. Let's listen a little bit more to the podcast really quick. Again, this is the Game Theory podcast.
Bad teams like that don't have primary initiators, like would they want to go down this path? Like, like Washington, Brooklyn, like some of these teams already have bigs though, young bigs. Like, do any of those teams, like, do you see them, hey, maybe this is our offensive hub and we build our young core around him, initiating offense? Like, does he make sense?
Like, could Chicago do this, right? Like Arturas Karnisovas, guy that, played a role in drafting Nikola Jokic, loves bigs like this that can, play on the perimeter and be bullies and play like a European style of basketball. Like you could do Vooch and Collins and picks for this. And like they have so many expiring deals, like Vooch, Collins, Herter, and picks. Does Sabonis easily.
Yeah.
They that's one that I wonder about. Like if they would consider something along those lines.
Yeah, I was just looking through some other teams, and that's the thing with Sabonis, like where he's not there are certain archetypes that where it's just a little bit more difficult to always find the right fits, as opposed to a two-way wing or like a stretch and rim protection big. To me, is just a lot easier to kind of slot into just about any team than this type of big with what he does, where like the defense isn't great and his best asset offensively is kind of running the offense through him. And then so how much are you taking the ball out of other perimeter guys' hands? And so like it does make it, every one of these guys has that, right? Like DeMar, you already brought it up. We've talked about it here with Sabonis. Levine's is more the contract more than anything, but that's why all three of them, it's like, okay, you can't just name off 15 teams off the top of your head that's like this slides in perfectly. They absolutely would be in on this.
Good stuff. Anybody catch you could get Kevin Herter back? Wouldn't that be ironic? Anybody drive through Elk Grove frequently? Does anybody live in Elk Grove? Or did you live in Elk Grove 10 years ago? The thought that came to my head listening to that was, if you have been in Elk Grove or lived there, now there's a casino. I don't remember the name of the casino because I don't go. But before, that was supposed to be like this big, like shopping mall. It was going to be like a shopping mall. It was going to be outlets. It was going to be something. And they put like all the infrastructure in out there. You had all the steel beams, you had the different lots. And it's like, wow, this is going to be impressive. Sky River, thank you. Not to give them extra love. That's unwarranted. But you're thinking, damn, this place is going to be special. Holy moly, we're getting this in Elk Grove? And I think that's kind of like when Sabonis came in to Sacramento. It's like, wow, okay, this guy can run offense. This guy's got great heart. This guy's durable, right? And you're seeing this build out. And then it just stalled. You didn't put the right pieces around. You didn't continue building. And it sat, and it sat, and it sat, and it sat until it got knocked down. And is now a casino. It's very similar. Summing up Domantas Sabonis' time here in Sacktown. It's interesting to hear that from them because I've been kind of saying that for a minute. I mean, if the Kings had to play today, here's your starting lineup. It's Zach LaVine, Malik, DeMar, Keegan, and Domas. Here's your bench. Valanciunas, Carter, Isaac Jones, and Keon Ellis. If the Kings had to play today, well, Keon, that's assuming the Kings pick up Keon's option, which isn't as easy as it looks. So that's where you're running. So you have infrastructure. You just didn't keep on building. And now you are in a spot just like that build out in Elk Grove was in a spot where, well, what we put up, you can't really sell that steel. It's going to cost more to tear it down. Like you got 3/4 of the way there, and then the Kings stopped. Or they went too heavy in one area, which I would argue is that in-between guard position. Like I bet you every single time Domantas Sabonis saw not a point guard, not a 2 guard drafted or brought into this roster, you know he let out one of those Chewbacca roars, or as we call them around here, Sabaka roars. Yeah, the new Galleria. Look, Wolfie, I've been arguing this for a minute. Yes, players need to make shots, but there's also a reason that almost every three-point shooter quit shooting the ball well. There's a correlation there. There's something there. At what point do you look at the system and say, okay, are we not getting the same looks? How do we adjust to this? I don't think it happened. Kevin Huerter played well. Davion Mitchell played well after leaving. De'Aaron Fox didn't play well. Vivek, the problem. Elk Grove is getting the zoo. That's correct. Good job by you. I don't know when we're getting the zoo, but I know it's coming. Could you imagine moving all of those animals? I do, and this is not to belittle the Sacramento Zoo. I think they are a class facility. There's just not enough room. They need more room. So how does this happen? If it was so simple, why couldn't we get it done? Smells like Vivek interference. Well, you know what? I think it's a great question. And here's where I think you went wrong. If I'm being quite honest about it, it was the Sabonis extension. You didn't need to extend him that summer. The summer after the playoffs. His camp asked. The Kings knew it would be coming. But I think that is where, that's the first thing I point to. I can't point to the trade deadline that year because the chemistry was good. I'll get to it, Progressive. I got you. We'll talk about it, Progressive. I can't point to the trade deadline. I get not messing it up. But you had some money to play with. You brought back Harrison Barnes on a reasonable deal. And the Kings put all their eggs in that Sasha Vezenkov. I don't even know what you want to call it. Sasha Vezenkov hype tour, Sasha Vezenkov marketing campaign. I mean, either the Kings really thought that it's not in the middle. It's one or the other. The Kings either thought Sasha was that good and was that guy that was going to space the floor for Domas, and the passing would get even better on this team. Or they pulled the wool over everybody's eyes, and they needed Sasha to get here to look like an active offseason. And they thought that their team was good enough to run it back. There was a thought that this team was good enough to run it back. So the first thing I point to is you didn't need to extend Sabonis. He was going nowhere. You use that money somewhere else, because I don't know off the top of my head, but the Kings had, I believe, somewhere in the neighborhood of outside of Barnes, I think it was 20 to 27 million to play with? So that's the first place I point, because you could have just brought in another piece. Like, look at the two teams. I'm not even going to use the Thunder. I'm not going to use the Thunder. I am going to use the Pacers as an example. When the Pacers got Hallie, much like that shopping mall, they kept building just a little bit at a time. When a move made sense for them, with a player that fit, they brought him in. And look where they're at now. They have not paid a single dollar of luxury tax. And they win at a 53% clip since 2012. And they have over 50 playoff wins. So, yeah, it might not have been a major piece, but it could have been another piece that grows along with this team. Because remember the thinking then? Does anybody remember what the narrative was? This is a young team. The Kings don't want to bring in older guys. They want to keep this thing young. This is the window. This is the start of the window, right? So I think that extension is the first thing. And then it was the two trade deadlines. After that, I'm not even going to get into the draft. It was the two trade deadlines. You had two teams that were behind you in the standings and players available that would have been absolutely perfect, would have fit the Kings' needs. How about Hachimura? Look at what he's done down in LA. Look at what the Dallas Mavericks did, not this last season, but the season before. Both teams, the Lakers and the Mavs, did not give up a massive haul to make their rosters a little bit better. And the Kings had the assets to do it, by the way. That's the thing. The Kings had the assets. But both of those teams, who the Kings were ahead of at the trade deadline, both teams made it to the Western Conference Finals in their respective years. Dallas went to the NBA Finals. So that, to me, Dirk, is where it started. And I do put, and I don't want to get into a Fox discussion, but there is a lot on De'Aaron Fox's plate in terms of responsibility for it. The way he played in 22-23 was drastically different from the way he played in 23-24. Now, the Kings won 2 less games, but the way he played drastically took away some of the most important things between the stats. Some of those stats that don't show up on paper, even some that do, the free throw shooting, not percentage, the amount of free throws the Kings shot dropped by 20% that season. He quit going to the hoop. He settled for the 3-ball, which in turn put most of the distributing onto Domantas Sabonis's plate. So that is where the team really got off balance. I believe the Kings looked at this as we've got a guy, as they said on the podcast, that can distribute, that can run the offense. I've been saying he's not a guy that fits on every team. I'm glad they agree with me. Grant doesn't agree with me there. That's why I worry about his contract. If it's the right team, they'll pay for it. But it's got to be a team that's going to build around him properly, or he fits in perfectly with what they're doing. Nutty. Dirk. Kings have been terrible in regards to bad contracts, then trading assets to get off said contracts. Agree. I do agree with that, Dirk. But back to that really quick, just with De'Aaron, now you only have one person that's really doing the administrating outside of Malik Monk in the pick and roll, because De'Aaron's assist numbers were there, but there was a lot of times Foxy filled up the box sheet when the game didn't matter. I know he's the clutch player of the year in 22-23, and it's kind of funny. Isn't it a better thing not to be the clutch player of the year or be in the top 5 for that award? Because that means your team's blowing other teams out. We don't need clutch time. We're that good. Anyways, that's where the Kings tremendously got off balance. We probably got the best version of Fox for his career. Yeah, you know what? I don't disagree with that either. Rhino, like you said yesterday, Fox is in a make or break situation. I think he is, you know, if I'm De'Aaron Fox, I'm looking at Rich Paul and I'm saying, I trust you right now because of your body of work. But I'm also looking over my shoulder at DeMarcus Cousins, separate situations. Boogie had injuries. Boogie wasn't offered a supermax. Neither was De'Aaron, but De'Aaron had a healthy contract, more than what he's making right now on the table that he walked away from here in Sacramento. Spurs get 2 more guys that are turnkey ready, or they get Wemby. Fox could find himself as the odd man out. It would be very, very interesting. So we'll talk a little bit more about the Kings as we go along. If you're just joining the show, the talk's around the Domantas Sabonis trade rumors, and here's my thought on it. You can't trade him. You just can't right now unless it is the right, unless you're going into rebuild. Period. End of story. Because everything that you're doing right now is building around Domantas Sabonis. You need a point guard anyways, but your style of play, a lot of it's being based around him, which means what you're targeting in the offseason is based around him. So I don't see the Kings moving him, but if the right deal were to come along and you get again, for first, yes, like it would be that quick, because then everything changes for Sacramento. Your entire style of play changes with Domantas Sabonis not here on the roster. Listen to a few more minutes of the podcast and we'll get to the All-Star game.
Like the Raptors would be somewhat interesting to me, but like they just have so many dudes already. Like
they were a team
like
that just, in general popped into my head, but it's like, well, then are you moving off like RJ and IQ to do it? So that way you open up some on ball reps or, like offensive usage.
Well, like you'd have to move Pirtle in the deal probably.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's
Like,
true.
That's the reality.
So,
and
like,
then
Pirtle and Barrett, does that get to the money?
it gets to the money for sure. But I mean, like, are they willing to add picks on top of that? I don't know.
Or maybe some
Like, here's my problem. I don't know what Domantas Sabonis' trade value is.
Yeah.
Just to be completely honest. Like, he's a guy that I really struggle with. My guess is that it's not particularly positive, but it will be positive. So someone would be willing to do it. I just don't know.
Yeah, like, so for Toronto, like, yeah, could you get it with Pirtle and then throw, like, if you needed to add, like, throw in some young, a young guy, because we've talked about like their situation
like
there.
Do you give up the number 9 pick plus Barrett and Pirtle for Domantas Sabonis?
Do I?
Yes.
No,
I don't either. I don't think I do either.
Yeah. I feel bad because I feel like we always end up negative on Sabonis.
I feel bad too, right? I feel that. This was actually a very good conversation. Go check out Game Theory for the full conversation on that. It was so funny. I was looking around the web today just for different stuff that people have put up about the Kings and Sabonis. And there's this video that's got, it's only got 311 likes. So not that many likes, but I've never heard Sabonis's name murdered more than this.
The Sacramento Kings could face far more hurdles than they ever imagined if they attempt to trade their star center, Domantas Sabonis.
Domantas? Like praying mantis?
To trade their star center, Domantas Sabonis, this offseason.
You can't put basketball content out. If you don't know the subject's name that you're doing the video about, you can't put content out. Domantas? Come on, you can't do that. All right, Progressive, you're asking about our favorite Adam.
I want to let it marinate a bit.
Are you talking about the 4-team format? Is that what you're talking about, Progressive? Either way, here's what I'm going to say about the All-Star game. Take it out behind the shed and put it out of its misery. Get rid of it. Doesn't mean get rid of All-Star weekend. Get rid of the All-Star game. Maybe have one more. This is the time that it's shifting, right? The league between the, the torchbearers, the OGs, the vets, LeBron, Steph, that generation is on its way out the door. You've got a new generation on its way in the door. Here's the problem. The old generation took a dump on the All-Star game. They just took a complete dump on what it meant. Oh, great. That's what it should be. Okay. That's hilarious. Progressive says Silver is changing it to USA versus internationals. The last press conference Adam Silver had, or maybe it was 2 press conferences ago, he gave a 3 or 4 minute response about why that's not possible. In fact, it was at the All-Star game. I think he said because you would be excluding too many American players. Because there's only you have so many American players, you have so many international players, and there's only so many spots on each team. So because you have so many more American players, they're vying for more valuable spots. That was his argument. Hey, you know what? Well done.
Ooh, that's a great question.
That is the first person to get that drop. That is Mr. Jerry Reynolds telling you that is a great
That's
question.
a great question.
How
Holy
about
moly,
that?
Zimbabwe!
Can we trade Vivek? I don't know. I don't think you can trade owners, but I like where your head's at. Anyways, if it's going international versus the USA, again, it's up to this new generation coming in the door to take it back from the OGs and say it actually means something to us. We remember growing up. Actually, they don't remember growing up, seeing Jordan, seeing Magic. They don't remember it at all. But here's what I'm going to tell you. If that does not work, take it behind the barn, get rid of it. You expand into an all-star Saturday kind of feel where it is one event. You're not doing celebrity games. You're not doing any of that stuff. It's one single event. You put it under one night. You add in some different contests. I mean, all-star Saturday night. If you want to, can we talk about it for a second? Let's talk about it for a second. The last time I checked, NBA players are like the top 1%ers, right? At what they do in the world, and that's play basketball. So why on the NBA's biggest stage, outside of the NBA Finals, why on its biggest stage are you showcasing and showing me how good they are at dribbling, passing, and shooting? The skills challenge. Dribbling, passing, shooting. And a layup. You know, if I think I'm watching the NBA, going into that, damn, I'm pretty sure those guys can pass. I don't need to see that. I'm pretty sure those guys can shoot the ball, most of them. And I'm pretty sure that they can dribble. Aren't those assumed? Show me what those guys can do that nobody else can. Showcase the skills that you don't get to see on camera during games. Just go to, if you ever have the opportunity to go watch an open practice, watch some of the stuff these guys do with the basketball. Watch how incredibly skilled, the crazy shots that they can make, the different things they can do between, you'll see guys that are dribbling the basketball with their feet. I'm not kidding you. Find a way to showcase why they are the 1%ers. The stuff the public doesn't get to see. That will get me to tune in. I want to see that. That's what the dunk contest was all about. How many of us can dunk? It's definitely not one of those things everybody can do. So you tune in. Making a three-pointer, quite honestly, I was always a bigger fan of the three-point contest because I was a three-point guy. But you keep the three-point. That's sexy. But you find another spin. You incorporate it. You know, they got great ratings with the WNBA when they had the Steph versus Sabrina thing. And Sabrina backed out this year at the last minute. And she's like, well, if you want me to do yours, then why don't you come do our all-star game, Steph? You know, we can do the same thing. Which isn't a bad move. I respect that. WNBA, though, never a profitable year in its existence, including last year. Adam, do you know how much money you're losing on the WNBA?
I want to let it marinate a bit.
That was David Stern's baby, my man. You are losing a lot of money. So, anyways, you redo All-Star Saturday night. Maybe you mix in. I think, and okay, the players that I have seen talk about it, guys that I've talked to, they want to see one-on-one, like King of the Hill for each position. That's what you do. You do a king of the hill for point guards, shooting guards, and that's what you do. You get one player that wins out of the all-stars at each position, all under the same roof one night. I think that would probably draw some eyes back into it. Rhino, would you trade Keegan/Monk for Orlando's Banchero and their backup point guard? No. Dirk, I don't know. I think a lot of fans might turn on Keon if the Kings actually pay him. They're not going to pay him as much as you think. And yes, they probably will. You kind of got a sniff of that with Malik Monk at points this year. Abraham, personally, I want a new starting five, but keep Keon, of course. Look, the best chance the Sacramento Kings have of being successful this year, two things. Whatever you do this offseason, your goal, if I'm Scott Perry, if Vivek Ranadive, no, scratch that, Alvin Gentry, because he's the mouthpiece for Vivek Ranadive, calls me up and he's like, yo, Rhino, can you, BJ and Scott, they're not doing a good job. We want you from the Kings court to come be the GM for the Kings. No, but you're from Sacramento. Like you come on. Okay. You convinced me. I'm from Sacramento. All right. The first thing I'm doing is finding a way to get my guys back into their natural positions. That's the first thing I'm doing. So that is.
Well, the biggest thing is we need a point guard. That's for sure.
I'm looking for that person. I'm looking for a true four. The Kings really don't have a true four. Keegan Murray is a true three. I'm getting everybody back to their normal positions. Hell, I might be getting 2 point guards.
The biggest thing is we need a point guard. That's for sure.
Next, I'm looking at my combinations. What's Doug Christie, everybody? He's a defensive guy. He shoots if he's open. He could play make a little bit better than Keon, but he was further along in his career when he was in Sacramento than Keon is now. Doug Christie is a defensive guy. He's a motivator. I'm looking at defense. Yes, I just said it, defense. Because if you get guys back to their natural positions, it changes how the Kings will be guarding. You're not packing the paint as much as the Kings have to pack the paint with Sabonis at 5, which is why the Kings are the worst defending or the worst in the league defending the three-pointer. Go watch any tape of every other team, and you will not see another team that has to cover as much ground on a possession after possession after possession after possession after possession after possession dude, I did 8 of them. I can't imagine 26. Another team that has to cover that much ground. That's why it's so difficult. You get them back, and now I'm looking at what guys on this roster can guard multiple positions. That's what I'm looking at, and that's how I'm looking at my combinations. And right now, as we sit today, with the assumption that Keon and Jake come back, you have 4 players that can guard multiple positions. Maybe, no, I'm not going to put him in there. You have 4 players. But with your starting lineup, if you have a starting lineup that includes Keon Ellis, it includes just Keon Ellis and Keegan Murray, that really balances things out. That allows what they can do on the perimeter to change a little bit, because those two can switch. Some of the biggest problems we saw with the Kings with switching was when you were doing that 1-4 switch, where the 4 had to switch with the 1. And those two can do it seamlessly. So I turn my focus to the defense, because when the Kings create on the defensive end, they're very good in transition usually. This year, it was the decision-making was poor. So that's how I'm building this team back. That's to me where the focus is. Because if you're focusing anywhere else, going back to the mall example, Like, if your focus is anywhere else than getting these guys back into their natural positions, that's like the company that built the infrastructure out and then just let everything sit. They built the concrete lots out, let everything sit. That's like them marketing and doing commercials. Coming soon. Paying money there to do that. It doesn't make sense. You got to get guys into their natural positions. And you're not that far off. You're really not. So, listen, love all the comments, by the way. The problem is I like to see this team with a real defending, distributing point guard. Me too. Problem is you don't have length to play really good defense. Can't become agree. Dirk, that's Dirk. Okay, well, that defense is a little bit different too. Their level of physicality across the board, they bounce you around. But the mindset should be exactly the same, is what they've been preaching in Orlando. Their coach has been doing, but you get a 4. That's what I was saying. You get a natural 4. You get a couple of point guards. That to me is the best case scenario where it's like, okay, maybe we overreacted. Maybe Sacramento shouldn't have stressed out as much about what this looks like on paper right now. Because Doug Christie, again, some of these moves, the Kings have gotten it right. They just didn't show their work. You know what I'm talking about in school? You know the right answer, but you don't, you use the calculator instead of writing out all the steps. What I'm saying basically is somehow you backed your way into the right move, but you went about it in a poor way. And I'm speaking to Vivek right now. Hiring another GM before you fired your current GM, telling that new GM that the job comes with your head coach, those types of things. But Doug's the right coach for that group, in my opinion. 3-and-D wing and a point guard. There you go. Any G League players coming up? Furious, I doubt it. Yeah, I'll talk about that a little bit more tomorrow. I'm right. Appreciate that. Hear you, Rhino. And boy, do I hope. We'll see. Start 6 for 6 and go down to 3 for 3 for an all-star game. There you go. What if every quarter? That'd be interesting. I don't know if it changes much. What if the NBA did like a penalty box? That's what they're doing, to Progressive's point. Adam Silver this same year said, no, we can't do international versus the world. And you know what happened? The hockey puts on the Four Nations tournament for their all-star game, and it blows everybody away. And it brought in new fans. So Adam Silver's like, it's the only thing we can do. There's nothing else we can do. Love King of the Hill. I think it would be a hit, guys, because it's one-on-one. It's mono. That's when you'll see some of that really cool skill come out. We already hit that. Abraham, I'm just so unenthusiastic about our starting 5. It's because you have, again, what was the example we used on this show? It was, you've got main dishes to a degree. Now, I'm not saying Domantas Sabonis is a tomahawk ribeye, but you have a really good main dish in Domantas Sabonis. You have a 50-50 good dish in Zach LaVine. I mean, here's the question. How much different do you look at Zach LaVine? And this is not something you need to answer and put in the chat, but I want you to think about it. If the number that currently is attached to Zach LaVine wasn't attached to him, how would you feel about him as a fit with this team? What would your concerns be? Right? Mine would be staying healthy. The most disappointing, Haunted Horse says the red fish. Sabonis is the red fish. Yes, I should transition to a read on that, but I'm not. My biggest concern about Zach LaVine, if I take the number away before he came to Sacramento, was his health. Can he stay on the floor? I am equally concerned, and I'm going to write it off to him playing out of position for now until I see a bigger sample size, and I'm going to write it off to integrating in with a new group, moving across the country. But it's something that I will continue monitoring, and I think everybody else should. His basketball IQ worries me nearly as much as his availability. I'm going to give him a pass at the moment, but there were too many times last year. If some of those, and I'm talking like, I can't believe that ball got through and went out of bounds. I can't believe the guy didn't catch it. Like, if all of those, like the defender would have caught the ball didn't go out of bounds, Zach LaVine's turnover number would have been through the you-know-what roof. I mean, through the roof. It was already high, but I can live with guys turning the ball over. There's a difference between a live ball turnover and a dead ball turnover. I get that. I can deal with the turnovers as long as they are not just dumb. And what I mean by dumb is there's no way to fit the ball there. That angle literally does not work. We learned that in geometry, but you still just try and try and try for possession after possession after possession. I'm not going to go to 7 again. And those were the things he was doing. He would have pick 6 turnovers that some high school players know that ball's not getting there. And so, again, he's not a point guard. He was asked to play the point guard position and bring the ball up at times, but the basketball IQ worries me. You know what else worried me? I have not given you guys an update on this. I'll give you an update here in a second. But Haunted Horse said it, so he got me hungry. You say the redfish, and I can't even really think about what to talk about other than Bennett's. 3 locations here in the greater Sacramento area: Roseville, Rockland. Rockland's pretty cool. If you want to go have brunch, hit up Rockland or Roseville. Not saying the brunch at Howe and Fair Oaks isn't great, but I'm talking about, like, if you want to sit on the patio, go to those 2 locations. Love the brunch. They do it at all 3. Make sure you go to bennettsrestaurants.com. You can check that out. That's one of their great specials, 11 to 2 p.m. on the weekends. If you are a brunch guy for Father's Day, make a reservation. You can do it now on the website, bennettsrestaurants.com. Also, weekends, prime rib, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you've got happy hour, 2 to 6 o'clock every single day. It's not just their prime cuts of seafood and steak that are amazing. It's really everything else. They run a special nearly every day of the week. And you don't have to go in and get a heavy steak at lunchtime. They're running some great specialty sandwiches from 11 to 4, I believe, off the top of my head. But steak, Cobb salad, homemade soups. The Roseville location has baked goods and a cafe as well. I'm telling you, you cannot go wrong with Bennett's. Brian, Margot, the entire crew there, they do it fresh and they do it right. Thank you for supporting them. Let them know when you go in that you heard about them here on the channel, and then make sure to let us know when you go in. We'll retweet it. I've given you this long-standing offer. If you have a bad meal, send me the receipt. I mean that. But you know what? Karma comes into play too. If you had a great meal and you send me that receipt, you know what's going to happen. You know what's going to happen. So don't do that. I know you'll have a great meal. Many of you have given me great stories about that. And Brian's always loving to chop it up with anybody that loves the Kings as much as he does. So go check him out. Bennett'sRestaurants.com. Prime cuts of seafood and steak. Now I'm hungry. Anybody else hungry? Some of you, depending on where you live, you might have time to make it for happy hour. That would be awesome. Holy moly. Good job. Okay. So all the guys were guilty. They were. So, sure, I do agree with that. But there's some of the plays Zach LaVine did and didn't make were concerning. And it was within the first 10 games, and it continued. So, yes, Sabonis made some boneheaded turnovers, more than he usually does. His burn rate was higher this year than it was than last year. So, anyways, you get my point. Oh, man, I missed the whole stream. Well, Andrew, no worries. Catch it on replay. Also, Grant's going to be back tonight. If you're not subscribed to the channel, like I know Andrea is, hit the QR code or scan the QR code, and you can join the 8.2 thousand that already are. If you can't take us or sit down to watch us, then take us on the go. All of the shows available on Apple, Spotify, wherever you find your podcasts. King's Court with Rhino, you'll find mine there. And then if you don't like that with Grant, any of his shows will be up on those audio platforms under that. We'll be back, Grant and I, on tomorrow together. We're doing a post-game show for the NBA Finals. Tonight, Grant will be here at 8 o'clock, so make sure you join him for Open Forum. Okay, so many of you know this story. I was in a car accident not too long. Well, it was kind of long ago, relatively speaking. I was on my way to Stockton to cover the Stockton Kings. And it was like the first time I'd ever been hit, right? And like buying a car, I don't know, maybe you're loaded, right? Damn, you're gonna call me out? I was going for more of like the Jack Sparrow. This is like my testing time in the off season to see like what I like, what you guys like, and damn, I didn't think it was quite like that. I mean, no, I thought it looked a little bit nicer. Boom, that hurt. Put Ryan in a doggy bag and enjoy him later. Oh my gosh, what are we doing? The show's coming off the rails. So anyways, getting back to my story. Like, I don't know, maybe you're loaded and you get a new car every, I don't know, year, 2 years. Maybe you're a lease person. You get the newest version of a car every few years. One thing I had never really done, and I was shocked my car was going to be totaled. Shocked. But one thing that I had never done in my car buying experience was actually do all of my research down to a T. Like, I'm not calling a dealership. I am not reaching out to anybody until I know exactly what I want. I would want to know what the downside is, what the upside is. I want to read reviews. I want to make sure I'm on top of it. This is going to be the one time I do that, because I guess my first two cars, I was like, college, high school age, so you're excited to have a car, right? My last car, or the two cars after that, I should say, it's kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And then my last car, I wouldn't say that it was impulse, but I would say that I should have known more about the car. I loved it, but I should have known more about the cost of ownership before I got it. And I'll wrap this up rather quickly, but you're going to find it ironic. So I finally find what I want. By the way, I did initially go through the EDH Auto guys. They were awesome. I know that they are sponsors here on the channel, so thank you guys very much. Make sure you check them out as well. Let them take the bad part of car buying out of your hands. Make it a good experience. You can go down to their place. They will pretty much find any vehicle for you. They'll take care of everything. You pick it up right there at their spot in El Dorado Hills. So go check them out, edhmotors.com. So I got the car, right? Like, and so we got it, and I waited for a while because I wanted to get the full experience. It's now been about a month, maybe a month and a half. And I'm like, and I've done all the forums. Like, if you're gonna get certain cars, you better read everything in the manual, right? You got to read the manual. And so I thought I was up in that spot. I'm like, okay, I'm doing everything right. And so I've been driving the car, and I wanted to wait on it. I'm like, you know what? I don't feel like I'm getting the right charge. I'm like, it doesn't seem like I'm getting the miles that I'm supposed to get. But then I look at the battery health, and I know all that, and it was fine. I'm like, I should have been getting more. And so last night I hopped on the interweb, and I was watching some YouTube videos on 0 to 60 in these cars. They're testing it, and they're showing the different modes in the cars that you can put it in. And I'm like, oh, excited. This is my version. What's it going to be? And they're like, okay, so you can put it in this mode, or this mode. And I'm like, looking, and I'm like, well, wait, I only have this mode and this mode. I don't have this mode, and this mode. This is me telling you in a roundabout way, I did everything that I thought I did right with research. And what did I do? I didn't get the right car. Now, luckily, it was a good mistake. Not upset about it. You've only had one vehicle in your entire life. All right, there you go. Dyson's calling. Oh my gosh. See, Paul, I don't. Okay. Oh, I know what you're talking about now, Paul. So I only had chill or sport, which told me that I got the right trim, but there's two versions under that trim. I wanted the other one with about 100 less horsepower. I wanted the extra miles. No. So my knuckleheaded dude, this knucklehead, had been driving around in sport mode. And that is why the mileage sucked. So that
don't make no sense.
Even when you try to do it right, sometimes you mess up. One new vehicle, it was a Ford Ranger. Oh, okay, I got you. You only got one new vehicle. All right, I'm with you. Didn't you get one of those vans that looks like an ice cream truck? Just wondering. Didn't you get one, Horse? Just thinking about it. A pass first. Yeah, we hit that. Want to make sure we get to the rest of the chat before we check out for the day. Tomorrow, I'm not sure that we're going to be doing a King's Court. Would do Levine for Zion. Actually, you know what? I'm so glad you said that. New Orleans. I meant to get to this. Good job, Mars. I would do Levine. Well, see, here we go. Yeah, I would have done it before Levine or before Zion had that lawsuit filed. So, all right, let's get to this. We've talked this week, and it actually was a big topic on Friday's show about this lawsuit that was filed against Zion Williamson. Anybody can file a lawsuit. It could be frivolous. It could be founded. You just don't know until it's heard in court or the defendant responds or the respondent responds. Zion's lawsuit that was filed against him had accusations of rape, amongst other very serious things. The New Orleans Pelicans were already on record saying they didn't think they were going to move Zion. This now puts a completely different cloud over Zion being moved. The Pelicans had deferred to Zion's attorneys who adamantly denied the allegations. And this is not, I want to make this clear, this is not a criminal matter. This is a civil lawsuit. That's why we're talking about lawsuits. We're not talking about charges. So New Orleans Pelicans executive vice president of basketball, Joe Dumars. Welcome to New Orleans, Joe. Got to deal with this. Owner Gail Benson are standing behind star forward Zion Williamson after he was accused of rape and domestic violence in a civil lawsuit. Quote, I've had really good conversations with Zion, end quote, Dumars told the Times. Picayune, there you go, on Wednesday about Williamson's future with the team. Quote, we've had lunch, dinner, watched playoff games together. We've done it all. Wouldn't you be trying to get Zion more active? Lunch and dinner? Come on, Joe. Take him on the golf course. Make him walk. Anyways, he actually came into camp in his best shape of his life. Watched playoff games together. We've done it all. I've had some real honest conversations with him, some real direct and honest conversations. We're going to go forward with Zion. He's going to continue being a focal point here as we go forward. When asked about the lawsuits or the lawsuit against Williamson, Dumars said, I've been advised not to venture into any legal issues, end quote. What's interesting here is they're standing behind him. What I thought was, and Haunted Horse came on the show and we kicked this around. We are not deciding his innocence or his guilt, but with the temperature of anything that has to do with rape, domestic violence, anything, assault of a partner, we know that's different territory for these leagues. It's just in how you handle it. And it is a black cloud until it's resolved. It is a dark cloud. And so that suit, unless this thing settles or is tossed out before free agency, I don't know that any other team would move on Zion Williamson, because you already have a stack of concerns on the playing side and staying healthy. But with those allegations hanging out there and very much could be unfounded, we're not talking about the merits of the case. We're talking about the impact of this type of pending case, because you've seen Deshaun Watson, Joe Flacco is now going through some stuff. What about Vince McMahon? Johnny Ace, John Laurinaitis flipping on Vince McMahon, Janelle Grant dismissing all of her claims against him. So that's what I think complicates things. Ryan, will you be watching the NBA Finals? Yes, I will. Grant and I are going to do a post-game show tomorrow night for the finals. I already asked this, but we all on the same page. The Kings next season will be will be a fail with DC as the head coach. Well, it defines how you call, or it's really what your expectation or definition of fail is to me. And it's too early for me to make that determination in this process in the off season. I want to see what moves they make. I want to see what the rest of the league does. I want to see if people get in the organization, get clarification. All that needs to fall first. But we could be talking about, and if you've been with us here now for most of the show, I've said I do not believe Sabonis will be traded, and a lot of the reports are saying the same thing. But if you're in that camp, then you've got a different set of expectations. If Sabonis was traded, the expectations, again, dramatically different. So I don't know that Doug will get more than a year. Actually, I would be surprised if the Kings fall or fail according to Vivek's expectations. I think, as I've said on shows before, Doug's been able to put together parts of his coaching staff, but the guys he was looking at, and Scott Perry coming in, being told Doug's going to be your coach, it just felt like the Mike Woodson hire was more of a Doug Christie, or more of, a Scott Perry kind of hire. And I will tell you this, out of all the coaches that have been hired by the Kings officially, I've only gotten one thing from the Kings via email that's like, hey, we're really excited about the Kings hiring this coach. Here's a link to go find out more about this coach. And that coach was Mike Woodson. That was interesting to me. So take it for what it is. If Doug Christie produces results, then he'll be here. If he doesn't, I just don't think you have a strong base. You have a strong foundation between Christie and Perry. You don't. And let's assume, for the sake of argument, and we're going to get out here, but let's assume for the sake of argument. Yeah, no doubt. 100%. I'm with you. Absolutely. Absolutely. The pool, Doug is the coach, is the right move. It's just how they got there that's kind of screwed up, which screws up the dynamics within the franchise. But what I fear, here's what I fear, that although Doug and Scott are working together, if that Mike Woodson hire was more pushed by Scott Perry because he didn't get to hire Doug, then you could very well see that separation in a crack between Doug and Scott if the Kings are not doing good. And Scott saying, hey, Vivek, Mike Woodson would have been my guy. You got him sitting right there next to Doug, one move away. So, and you can only imagine how it starts to snowball from there. And with the dysfunction that we saw this season, not too far off to make that jump. Dennis, how besides Mike Malone, there's like 5 or 6 coaches that are proven winners. Dennis, they're not coming to Sacramento unless you're going to pay them like $1 zillion. Well, I can tell you, you could give Mike Malone a bag. You could give him a blank check. He ain't working for Vivek Ranadive again. Period. End of story. So, yeah, if you're going to overpay for Tibbs, if you're going to overpay for Taylor Jenkins, you're going to try to get Doug or Jeff Van Gundy. I thought Stan Van Gundy would have been a really good one to look at if you wanted to get back into coaching. But hey, Scott Perry, his coaching thought, whatever he did, remember he told the media that he examined and knew who was available and who might be available. And because of how he knows them, he decided Doug's the best. Come on. So, yeah. And that's why you need those two on the same page. Can Doug get lessons at Bennett's? Yeah, we'll see. We'll talk to Brian about that for sure. Hey, join Grant tonight. Stanley Cup Finals getting ready to kick off. This has been a fun show. I appreciate each and every one of you for dropping in. If you weren't able to catch all of it, no worries. You can go back and download the audio on Apple, Spotify, Kings Court with Rhino. Thank you, as I always try to say at the end or at some point during the show, for letting me into your ears, your home, your office, your car, wherever it may be, to talk Kings basketball with you. Means a lot. Great community that we are building here. Happy that you are a part of it. Give us a like, give us a thumbs up, tell a friend. We are here through the summer and running you right into training camp with the Kings. It's going to be here before you know it. Grant tonight, 8 o'clock. And then remember, tomorrow we will be on, Grant and I together, doing an NBA Finals Game 1 post-game show. So join us for that here on the channel. Go Kings, light the damn beam. We'll catch you tomorrow here on. If you don't like that, court's dismissed.
Roll up those sleeves to your freaking neck.